Hey, welcome church to another 5 for Faith video. We're going to be looking at another character study today, learning from our failures and successes, how we can put those in everyday practice today. We're looking at this guy, King Solomon. He was a guy who was born into royalty. He was born into privilege. He was told that he was going to be king. But he was a youngest of 19 sons, most likely the youngest. There's some discrepancy, perhaps he was not, but it looks like he was the youngest of 19 of David's sons. Now, there's a lot of other guys maybe of sons of David that were more apt to be king. Abner, the firstborn. Adonijah was another who set himself up to be king, and we're going to look at that in just a moment. And so did Absalom. Wanted to be king and did some things to set himself up as king. But of all of David's accomplishments, being a guy after God's own heart, being a wise king as well, great decisions, it didn't seem like he was the best father. And in Adonijah's case, as he usurps the throne, here's what he says about him. He says, I don't want to interfere in what's going on with Adonijah, and I'm not going to even ask about his behavior. That's interesting to me. You didn't want to say anything, David, to that? You knew he's not supposed to be king. Why don't you step in and say something? But he doesn't. So Adonijah goes ahead. He gathers up the leaders that David had already set up, and even some priests, and says, I'm king. And he does that. And he invites all the king's sons to join him, except for one son. And you guessed it, that's Solomon. He doesn't invite Solomon. So Nathan, the prophet, gets word of this and says, hey, David, did you make Adonijah king? And David's like, I don't think so. And he says, but this is going on? You better do something about it. Make sure you anoint Solomon, your son, king, before you die. And David's like, oh man. So he does it, sets Solomon up as king, anoints him. They have this big parade, and he's going down the street with other leaders, and he's anointed king. Well, Adonijah gets word of this, and he's like, oh man, I messed up, and runs for his life. The Bible says he runs into the temple and grabs the horns. That's a symbol of hoping to fall on the grace of the person pursuing you. And sure enough, Solomon spares his life. Interestingly enough, I think that's the first thing we see about Solomon's character. Perhaps he had grace on his brother. But Solomon sets himself up as king. He's a young king. He's 20 years old when he becomes king. And he has a dream. The Lord visits him in a dream and says, Solomon, ask me whatever you would want, and I will give it to you. Can you imagine that question? It's like a genie in the bottle question. Oh, give me 3 more wishes, or give me $1 million right now, or make me the most powerful genie of all time. But Solomon's words are interesting. He says, I have been given this kingship, and I am but a child. What I need is to be able to discern what's right and what is wrong before the people, to make good decisions. And the Bible says that the Lord granted him that, and says, I'm going to give you all that. However, because you didn't ask for all these other things, I'm going to give those to you too. He says, I'm going to give you riches and honor and a long life. Wow, what a great setup for Solomon. One of his first decisions recorded in the Bible we are familiar with, when these 2 ladies who have 2 babies, and they come before him. One of the moms has the baby that's died, and one of them has the baby that's alive. Over that night time, one of the babies died, and these 2 ladies come in and blame each other. Well, Solomon says, hey, why don't we just cut the baby in 2 and we'll give them both halves? And the one stood up and said, yeah, that sounds good. let's just kill him, and that makes sense. And the other one says, no, please save my son. I'd rather have him live and have her be the mom than for him to die. And Solomon says, you truly are the mom. We know that. What an incredible act of wisdom. So we have a lot of great things that we see of Solomon's early life. Well, what happens in his later life? We're going to look at that in our part 2 of King Solomon. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it.